Hi, my name is Tom Conkle from Optic Cyber Solutions, and today I want to take a moment to talk about the CMMC proposed rule. On December 22nd, the DoD CIO office filed the CMMC rule with the Federal Registry and identified an intent to have it published on December 26th. This is the next milestone date in getting the CMMC rule finalized. So as of December 26th, the CMMC rule will be available for public comment. Public comment period will last for 60 days, ending near the end of February. So I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of go through the highlights of the rule as it was filed and kind of get a general understanding of what we can expect to see in it. It is a 234-page document, so there's quite a lot to go through, so we'll just cover some of the highlights. So CMMC is still a three-level process, with level 1 for protection of FCI information and containing 15 requirements. This is a slight change from the original draft CMMC 2.0 that included 17 practices for level 1, but really not much of a change at all, because what the DoD has done here is they've just gone back to the original FAR clause, whereas one of the FAR statements previously was broken down into 3 specific requirements because of the and statements within it. But that caused a little bit of confusion based on the comments that came back. Didn't understand the DoD's intent as to why they were changing some of the requirements rather than just leaving them as written in the FAR. So to eliminate any confusion at all, we've gone back now to the actual 15 requirements from the FAR itself. So it looks like a change, but really from an organization implementing level 1 requirements, not a change at all. For level 2, in the protection of CUI, that remains the same and tied to NIST 800-171 Rev 2. For level 3, we've known that the requirements would be aligned with SP 800-172, but we didn't know which of the requirements would be selected. So in the proposed rule, we can now see the 24 requirements from 172 that are required to protect critical CUI or CUI for high value assets. The assessment approach as identified in the proposed rule remains very consistent with what we've seen with previous drafts of CMMC 2.0, whereas with level 1 that we're only going to be required to do a self-assessment against the 15 requirements there. Level 2, it does appear that the bifurcation is still going to remain, where some organizations seeking level 2 will be allowed to do a self-assessment, while others will be required to have an assessment performed by a CMMC third-party assessment organization. It's a little bit unclear as to which organizations will require this to be certified, while which ones can be self-assessed. The rule does state that the solicitation itself will tell us if self-assessments are appropriate, but we can get a little bit of an insight into what the DoD is looking for if we look at their estimates for the first year of CMMC. Once the final rule comes out, the DoD has estimated that that first year about 400 DIB members or organizations supporting the DoD will be required to have level 2, and of the 400, about 37 of them are identified to be able to do the self-assessment, whereas the remaining, or the vast majority, will be required to have the certifier come in the third-party assessment completed. And for level 3, this will remain at the DIBCAC level, so the DoD itself will come and assess organizations at level 3, whereas level 2 certifications, when the C3PAO comes in, they will certify you against all of 110 security requirements. Once an organization has met all 110 requirements, they can request the DIBCAC come in and do an assessment against the remaining 24. The DIBCAC will not reassess what was previously done at level 2. However, there is a stipulation in there that if the DIBCAC does see that a practice is no longer being met at the level 2 at level 2, while they're doing the level 3 assessment, they are to hold or terminate the level 3 assessment until the level 2 requirements are put back in place. And as previously seen on other drafts of CMMC 2.0, we can see that in the proposed rule that POAMs, or Plan of Action and Milestones, will be permitted in most cases. But as you can see here on the slide, level 1 will not allow a POAM an item to go in the POAM. All 15 requirements are expected to be in place. For level 2 and 3, POAMs are allowed, but there are specific rules on how many items can be put on the POAM, and there are a few requirements that may not be put on the POAM in any case. Items that are put on the POAM, though, must be corrected within 180 days, and the organization that did the assessment that identified the need to put the item on the POAM will come back and verify within that 180 days that the requirements have been put in place. So at level 2, if you had a C3PAO, the AC3PAO will need to come back. At level 3, you'll have to have the DIBCAT come back and confirm that the POAM items have been closed. Something else that hasn't changed is from the previous drafts of CMMC 2.0 are the domains. They remain consistently aligned with the 14 security families from 800.171, and that will remains to be true in the proposed rule as well. What has changed is the identifiers and the way that we're labeling the requirements. For all of the requirements now, they want to tie them a little bit closer to the actual source document so that we can identify where did the requirement originate. So for level 1, we can see there's from the FAR clause. So we have the first identifier for the domain in which the requirement is aligned. The second tells us what level it is, so level 1 for level 1 requirements. And then the remaining requirement ID for level 1 is the specific FAR paragraph in which that requirement's derived. For level 2, it specifically calls out the identifier from 800.171 Rev 2, and then for 3, it's the specific identifier for 172. So again, it looks like a change, but it really isn't a change because the requirements themselves, and again, what you need to implement to meet CMMC has not changed. So that was a brief overview of what we see in the proposed rule. Again, there's 234 pages within the proposed rule, so much more information to come out about it as we continue our analysis within it. But in the meantime, I wanted to make sure that you had access to some resources that are available for you today. Starting with the Optic resources, we have a 171 profile that you can use to start recording the information about your cybersecurity capabilities as it aligns to the CMMC level 2 practices and get ready to develop your SSP or system security plan. We also have a worksheet that'll help you score your system so that you get a sense as to how ready you are for assessment specifically at level 2. I've also included a link here to the proposed rule with the Federal Registry, as well as links directly to the source requirement documents. Optic Cyber Solutions strives to help organizations identify and address their blind spots through our assessment, implementation, and advising services. For more information about Optic Cyber Solutions and our services, reach out at info@opticcyber.com or check out our website at opticcyber.com.